What's up, baby? You are listening to Speak Now with Gena, right here at 95.7 FM, WELT. I would like you to help me welcome, with your listening ear, national best-selling author, Kendra Norman. How are you, Kendra?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for allowing me to interview you.
Oh, thank you for having me. I appreciate the invitation.
Great. Hey, I am looking at your website. Can you give the name of the website? And then I want to read something that is so powerful. Well, let me read it first, okay? It says, okay. I'm a writer, not a fighter, but I write for the Lord, so my pen is mightier than the enemy's sword. I slay demons and dragons without breaking a sweat. A simple stroke of my pen can slit the devil's neck. That's powerful. Godly words are my weapons, and I stay in position. So when I reach for my pen, I'm reaching for ammunition. You better get back, Satan. I'm strapped with nouns and verbs, and God has given me power to take you out with my words. That's powerful right there.
Yeah. You know, I remember when I penned that, I was sitting at home one day and just got the inspiration. One of the things about me is that I started out as a poet, and that was when I was a child. And so I grew up through childhood and my teen years and very early adult years writing poetry. But I've kind of gravitated away from poetry, except for special occasions. People will still ask me to write poems for like weddings or family reunions, funerals, things of that nature. But I was really just sitting at home one day, and this rhyme, this rhythm, this, poem came to my mind, and I sat down and I penned it, and I really didn't know why I was penning it, but it became a song in my heart. It actually became like a rap style song in my heart. It took on a beat. It almost like took on life, and it became a beat in my mind. And so I have a radio program that I do.
Oh, what's the name of it?
The name of my radio program is called Royal Pen Network, and it is powered through Blog Talk Radio. And it airs on Thursdays, on the second and fourth Thursday of each month at 7:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that it actually evolved into being my theme song for the radio show. My husband actually took the lyric and took it to someone who he knew could set music to it and, put it together and actually do the rap of it. And then I have vocals on it, so I'm actually singing on it as well. And so it really took on a life in and of itself. And so it became the music that's played in the intro and then the outro of my radio show. It became a poem that I really loved. It stuck in my heart, and I don't know really why it came to me at the time that it did, but now it makes sense because it actually evolved into being something that was, it became an important part of my life and what I do.
That's awesome. You're also a writing coach.
Mm-hmm. I am. And something that I really love to do, because writing for me is something I'm very passionate about. It's my life's purpose. I tell people all the time that once you find your purpose in life, you really know when you have found what it is that God ordained from the very beginning for you to do. But as a part of me being a writer, it goes beyond just, me writing my own books. I also am, as you said, a writing coach. So there are people who will come to me on a one-on-one basis, or other times I will teach writers seminars that people will, get a group of aspiring writers together in whatever area that they live in, and then they'll reach out to me and say, hey, can we employ you to come and to teach this or to facilitate this writer seminar for these writers who are really hungry to know the ins and outs of creating a book, as well as marketing and publishing. All of that is really involved in it. So I make myself available to go in and facilitate these seminars, and I call them boot camps, because it really is a lot that is pressed into a limited time period based on how long they want to hold these workshops that they have. But outside of the workshops, the group settings, I avail myself also as a writing coach, where people can connect with me and I can walk them through the process, really kind of holding their hands and being available to them to call, to reach out to, or what have you, when they have questions regarding the process as they are going through it. So I had one young lady who used to always refer to me as her writing midwife, because she said that I helped her birth, this baby that she had. And so, it's a very fulfilling thing to do, to watch somebody see their goals and their dreams come to life. And so I enjoy being a part of that.
That takes me right into my next question, because you identify yourself as a writer of Christian fiction. Is that correct?
I write Christian fiction. I also write inspirational or ministry nonfiction. So I write fiction and nonfiction.
Okay.
So yes, I am a Christian fiction writer.
So as a Christian fiction writer, is it difficult then to coach someone who does not write Christian books?
Not really, because the writing process is the same.
It's the same,
regardless of what it is, what genre you really want to get into. But I will say this, that people who don't want to write Christian fiction typically do not come to me, because they know, what I specialize in. They know what I do. And so they are not going to be the ones primarily that will reach out to me about helping them write a book if what they're writing is not faith-based on some level.
Great. So how long have you been writing now?
My first book was self-published, and I self-published it in 2002.
Is that In Love with Grace? For Love of Grace?
For Love and Grace, yes.
Okay.
For Love and Grace was my first book that I wrote, and like I said, I self-published it in 2002, and then I was contacted by the editors at BET, who at that time, BET actually had a books division, and they had launched a new inspirational line that they were seeking authors for, and the book fell into the hands of one of the editors there on that staff, and they actually reached out to me and told me that they wanted to get the permission and get me under contract to re-release For Love and Grace on a national level, and they also wanted me to turn it into a 3-book series, so it ended up being a 3-book, what they called Grace series.
And what are the sequels to that, or do they call them sequels in writing?
So
it's a trilogy then?
It is a trilogy.
Okay.
So they are considered sequels, but it is For Love and Grace, Because of Grace, and More Than Grace.
Oh, those are the first 3 on your website. Awesome.
Yes.
Wow. Let me just back up a little bit. So do you self-publish, or do you use traditional publishing? Why do you choose whichever way?
Okay, well, I started out self-publishing, as I said before. BET contacted me, and after BET contacted me, shortly thereafter, I was contacted by Moody Publishers out of Chicago from Moody Bible Institute. They got in contact with me, wanted me to write for them as well, and then shortly after that, I was contacted from Urban Books, who had started a Christian line, which was called Urban Christian, and so there was a time that I was writing for 3 traditional publishers simultaneously, because they all gave me contracts that did not make me only adhere to writing to them, writing for their label. And so I was able to actually write for 3 at the same time. And I did that for several years. I reverted back to self-publishing. I believe it was in 2013. I reverted back to self-publishing. I decided to take full control over my own work. And for me, traditional publishing was an amazing experience. It was a great blessing, because what it allowed was for my name to be put out there on a national level. And during those years that I was writing for traditional national publishers, it allowed me to garner a following of very diligent following that I have of readers. And so once I reverted back to being a self-published author, those readers still follow me. They will still support me. It doesn't matter to the readers who you're published through. They are looking at the work, the author, who it is that's putting the book out there. And so they will still come and they'll follow and they'll buy and they'll support and they come to book signings. And so I just feel very blessed.
Yeah, you are. That is a blessing. Was there a certain level of stress that came with having to fulfill contracts with 3 different publishers?
No, and maybe there should have been, but there really wasn't, because I feel like for me, writing comes so naturally. It's something that flows. It's almost like breathing. It's not something that I have to stress over to do. I have so many storylines, even in the back of my mind now, that I have not written. And so the only stipulation that the publishers put on me was that I would never pit them against each other. So I could never market the same manuscript to more than one of them where they're fighting over it and having to try to see which can outbid the other, so to speak, in order to have the rights to publish it. And so I was more than happy to agree to that, because I didn't even want to be, in the mix of something like that going on. And so all it really took was for me to have the creativity and the juices flowing to the point where I could actually produce the number of books that were required. And so that there was a time, I work in corporate America now, but there was a time that all I did was writing, and I wrote full time, and I did that for about 9 years consecutively. And so I had all day, to put toward my writing. And so being able to write for the 3 publishers and give them that 1 book per year per publisher that they were looking for really was not a strain or a stress point for me. It would be a strain for me to do it now, holding down a corporate America job and also writing as well. But with me now, as I said, taking over my own career and doing it on my own, I can publish and produce at my own rate and publish it myself.
The wonderful thing about hearing the journeys of authors is the freedom. When I hear the freedom of being able to go in whichever direction that you want to go, and it's okay. And I just think that that's really awesome, really awesome. Tell me something about some of your books. I'm looking at your website. Well, let's start with this one that you have coming soon, Woman at the Well. Or has that been released yet?
It has not been released. I'm actually still in the process of writing that one right now. So it has not reached the publishing process. I have not finished with it. It has been my endeavor to put it out by the end of the year, but it actually may be early 2020 when it is actually released, because I have been doing a lot of writing coaching this year. And so I've been helping a lot of others to fulfill their dreams and to birth their books. And so that's been taking up most of my time, instead of me really, kind of honing in on getting my own written. But I will be focusing on that solely, basically, in the next few weeks, because I will be finished with all the writing coaching that I currently have on my schedule. But Woman at the Well, like most of my books, it has a romantic theme to it. All of my books, though they're Christian fiction, they're faith-based, they're Christ-centered, they have a romantic background to them. So there's always a romance brewing somewhere in the storyline. I also have some books that are more so, they're also like mysterious in some way. So there's like some type of mystery that's going on. And oftentimes there's a lot of family drama that is included. So I have a smorgasbord somewhat of genres that are really kind of going on in the storylines, which really keeps it being a page turner when people are reading it to see what's going to happen next. But Woman at the Well is a book that I'm really excited about putting out. It's going to be a 2-book series. There will be a second book that will come out that'll be the second half, really, of the story of this couple that meet up with one another. This man who really moves into a city where this woman already is connected to, because her father's church is really there. And so they will connect by way of her father's church. And she has a hand in a singles ministry, which is a little bit intimidating to him, because he does not want to feel like he is in any way messing up a calling that God has on her life if she's anointed, so to speak, to be single and to encourage other singles. Then he does not want to have a hand in being something that disrupts this ministry that he has. But by the same token, she's someone that he has great interest in, and it'll be for him the first time he's been in a serious relationship in quite some time. And so, he has a son who is an adult, and, he's had some problems in relationships in the past. His son is married now with a family of his own, and his son is a large part of the reason why he ends up in this city. And this is also the church where his son actually attends. He's going there really to be closer to his granddaughter. He missed out a lot on his son's life, and so he wants to be closer to his granddaughter. So he moves there in the city where his son is. He's freshly out of the military. He has retired, and so he's going to go to where his son is and be a part of that. But there's a lot more waiting for him in this city than what he bargains for.
So this is a seasoned couple then. This is not.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. This is a 40. They're in their 40s.
Okay.
So this is a 40 couple. Yes.
It sounds exciting. What I heard you say is you have all these stories going on in your head. How easy is it for you to keep the stories? Okay, that's this story over here, and that's this story over here.
Yeah.
How easy or difficult is it for you to say, no, Lillian doesn't go there. Lillian's going to be over here.
Well, see, that's a really good question, but that's the reason why I only will write one story at a time. I know authors. I have authors, friends and people that I affiliate with who will tell me that they're writing 2 or 3 manuscripts at the same time. I tried that early in my career, and just what you just stated is what happened. It was like I was writing 2 different manuscripts, and after a while I was putting characters from one in the other because I was getting stuff mixed up, and I was like, wait a minute, that's not the story that he belongs in. He belongs over here, and so from there I decided that for me, it was more effective for me to, just kind of be focused on one manuscript at a time. Now, these stories that I have in my head, they don't just stay in my head because I have so much going on in my life with ministry, with church, with writing, with work, and all of that going on. I do make note of them. I have a file on my computer where I will store, like when a storyline hits me, I go to that file and sometimes I don't even have a title for it, but I have a storyline. So I'll open up a new file, I'll name it something, and I will put those ideas down. And so that way I don't lose it. So once I am finished writing Woman at the Well, then I know that what I'm going to pull next is this, and the bullet points of it I already have stored.
Oh, good for you.
You
are definitely. I need some coaching then to tell me how do I, because I can wake up in the middle of the night and say, "Oh my goodness, that's good. Let me write that down," and I'm just all over the place. But I thought there was something wrong with me in that until I talked to other authors who say that their characters talk to them all the time.
Yes. Yes, they absolutely do. And they did it a whole lot when I was writing full time.
Okay.
There was a lot of time on my hands. A lot of times I was in a quiet place, in a creative, type place. And so I would have characters that would talk to me often. I'd have them wake me up in the middle of the night. I've actually had that happen before. I've had a character, and I have a hard time getting people to believe this, but I had a character once that became a major character in one of my books that was a very minor character, and there was a series I was writing, and he would just be mentioned every now and then because he was just kind of a backdoor, back scene type character who really didn't have a storyline of his own that was pushed to the front of the book at all. He was just that character, and he was that like bad seed, the child of this preacher who, was not one that was at the forefront. He was the trouble child, and so he was in the back scene and not one of them I was honing on. And I woke up in the middle of the night. That character woke me up in the middle of the night and told me he wanted a larger scene.
Isn't that amazing? I believe you, honey.
People needed to know. People needed to know that you could have that kind of life and still come out of it and be blessed in the end. And so he ended up really having his own story, that came forth in that particular series. So yes, they do. Right. They talk to you. And, I believe when your books are character driven, when they are the ones that are leading the story and not you so much as the author trying to force fit them to do what you want them to do, when you let it flow naturally and allow that character to almost tell you where they want to go and what they want to do, I believe you have a better product at the end, because everything is more natural, because things are more believable, things are more relatable, because you actually allow that character to do what a person does when they're in that situation, or when they live in that area of town, or when this is their profession, instead of you just trying to make them do what you want to do because you want it to end, this particular way. So yeah, they do. They talk to you.
Which goes right to your poem, that the Holy Spirit is guiding you and leading you. And so for you to be humbled and bow down, that's how this character, which book is that? So I can check that one out.
That book was actually in my Shelton Heights series that I did a few years ago. And so there were 4 books that were in that particular series, and it was In Green Pastures, Battle of Jericho, The Lion's Den, and Upon This Rock.
I see those.
Those were the 4 that were actually in that particular series, and that character became the main character in The Lion's Den, I believe it was.
So for anyone who is listening, you can actually go onto Kendra Norman's website, and all of the books that she's talking about right now, you can see these. The website is www.royaltywriter.net. Is that correct?
That is correct. ROYALTY writer.net.
Right. When you think about the writing process, or the books that you've written, which book stands out more to you that you were just, you knew it had to end at that point, but you didn't really want it to? That really rests on your heart.
Yeah, it's so hard for me to answer that question. Okay. I get that question quite often. I love each and every one of my books individually, and they're for different reasons that I love them as much as I do. The Grace series, the 3-book series I did with BET, when it comes to the characters themselves, I think I fell in love with these characters more than I have with any set of characters that I've actually worked with. They grew on me. They became almost like a part of my family, like a part of my inner circle of friends. And I still long to write another book that involves these same characters. And I have readers who really ask me on a regular basis, is there going to be another book in your Grace series? And I tell them all the time, I really want to write a book, but I do totally write by the leading of the Holy Spirit. So if God does not give me a book to write, because I can just come up with a storyline and put it together. But what I know is that for me, writing is a ministry. And when I write books, they are to be a blessing to someone in some way. So it's not just to be some form of entertainment for readers, but it's also to be some type of empowerment, some type of encouragement, to be a blessing to somebody. And so therefore I have to allow God to lead me when to write about characters and what to write about those characters. So although, me in my flesh, I desire to go ahead and write another book in the Grace series, I believe that, God will give me a story to write eventually where that series is concerned. However, I have to wait for it. And so, that's where that is right now. But as far as which book is most dear to me, I would probably say it would be my nonfiction books versus the ones that are my fictional books, because my nonfiction ministry books are about me. They are my life's testimony. They are my journey. And so I have a 2-book nonfiction series that I call the Life, L-I-F-E, the Life series, and that's I Shall Not Die and the Path from Pain to Purpose. And so those 2 books embody my life's testimony, because I don't look like what I've been through. That's all I can, tell people, and so until they read the books, they really don't really know the things that made me who I am, the things that came together to make me who I am, the path that God really put me on to bring me to the place where I am right now. And so that 2-book nonfiction series is actually the one that's dearest to me. But I love all of my books individually for individual reasons.
They're all your babies. They're
all my babies.
Yeah, that was my next question. Do any of the stories connect to your real life? But you've shared that.
Well, the as far as the fictional stories are concerned, none of them really connect to my real life. But I tell people all the time, they'll ask me, where do you draw your story ideas from? Where do you get your inspiration from? And I tell them, I'm the daughter of two preachers. My mom was a preacher. My dad is a preacher. He's a bishop. I grew up in church my entire life. And there is nowhere where you can get more storylines than in church. I tell
that's
you,
right.
There's so much that goes on in church. Whatever you're looking for, whether it's mystery, romance, it could be a straight crime novel, and you still can find, some inspiration to draw from outside of the four walls of the church. And so, none of them are following my life necessarily. However, when I started writing my fictional novels, one of the things that made me stand out from most writers, perhaps all female Christian writers, and maybe even, those that write secular, I don't know. I don't really follow them as closely. But one of the things that made me stand out was that most female writers who write from the female perspective. There's a female that is the main character that drives their story. When you pick up one of my fictional novels and read it, you almost figure out early on that there's going to be a male character that actually drives the story. There's always going to be a lead female because, like I said, there's always a romance brewing or something going on. But the story itself typically evolves around the life of a male character that I have in the book. And I believe that is drawn from my life in that when I used to just read fiction and wasn't writing it, when I read it, it was always like our black men were being just, ostracized. They were being painted in a way where it was always negative. They were deadbeat dads. They were on drugs. They didn't want to do right, all of this stuff. And that wasn't my life. My dad was there for us, strong man, always had been. My brother is my favorite sibling, and I have there are 4 girls and 1 boy, and my one brother is my favorite sibling. My favorite cousin was male, so I had a lot of strong male role models in my life. And so when I started writing, it wasn't necessarily something that I set out to do, but when I started writing, I wrote about strong black men.
Yes.
And these were men that were not perfect. They had their quirks, they had their trials, they had tribulations, they had the things that they struggled through. But all in all, they were very strong men who loved God, loved their family, and they are trying to do right. They're in all that they're going through, they're determined to do the right thing. And I did not think that there was enough out there on the bookshelves of books that told the stories of men like that. And
that's
so,
awesome.
That portion of it really does come from my life.
And I love that. I'm looking at the website that all of your covers are centered around black people, which is pretty cool.
Yes, and I do have, I have multiracial people that are in the book.
Okay. Like
the best friend of the male character or the female character may be a Caucasian person. Uh-huh. They may have a best friend, or they may have, there just could be somebody, a neighbor that they deal with. There could be interracial marriages within the family that they are part of, but the primary characters are going to be African American. Yes.
The protagonist is black. They are black. There you go. That's awesome. Yes. That's awesome. So I want to just touch on also the fact that, yes, you're a writer. I saw this on the page, but I'm actually trying to click while I'm talking. But you're not just a writer. You are an ordained minister. You're a motivational speaker. You're a radio host. You as an author wear many hats. And you're a mom and a wife. Yes. How long have you
my
been?
My favorite roles. Those are my favorite roles.
Which ones, honey? The mom and the wife.
The mom, yeah. Yeah.
And do you pull any stories from your family?
No, not really. I don't. My family is like a normal family. We grew up very normal. We had, mom and dad at home. We grew up in church, grew up to be adults, and all of us now, me and all of my siblings, with the exception of my baby sister, we're all married, and we have families of our own now. So we just kind of have a normal life for the most part. We've lived normal lives. When I write, there's a lot more drama and a lot more situations that are going on in the lives of my characters than there are in were that went on in the lives of my family members. Now, I will say that my most recent fictional novel is called Blondiva's Boys. And people will often ask me, where did I get that title from? Because it's such an odd name. Well, Blondiva was my mom's name. My mother actually passed away back in 2014, and she absolutely hated her name. She passionately hated her name, and so much so that most people did not even know that her name was Blondiva. She went by her middle name because she hated her first name so much. But when she passed away, my mother was such a kind-hearted, loving woman and such a strong woman of God who lived by example for her daughters, of what it is to be a godly woman and a good wife and all of that, that I wanted to make her name national and international. And so I named the main character, she's really not the main character in the book. She's the mother of the main male character in the book, and her name is Blondiva. And so this book surrounds her boys. She has 4 sons. And so although this particular character is not the depiction of my mother, nothing about her personality really is that of my mom's, with the exception of the fact that she is a woman of God. She's a strong mom. She's that, but nothing really about her personality outside of that really fits my mom. I just wanted to use her name. So, that part of that book comes straight from my family.
I love that. You want to give her, that's a legacy, that name,
right,
a legacy.
Right.
Awesome. What is your vision for yourself as a writer for the future? You have a lot of irons in the fire. Do you have a future vision?
I have. There are things that I want to do. There are grounds that I would love to cover if it's God's will. For my writing, I would love to get into television at some point, or to see my book come to a stage, on a stage somewhere, or on a big screen somewhere. I would love for that to happen. I would even love to have a hand in doing some writing for maybe a television series of some sort. If it's not mine, it can be somebody else's. If it's faith-based, there's so many faith-based films now that are coming out and being released and being really embraced by the public viewers. And so I would love to be able, to have a hand in doing something with television where my writing is concerned. So that's something I've really been praying about and, seeking God's will on. And if it's His will, it will certainly be my pleasure to do it.
Awesome. Awesome. Talk about some things that you have coming up tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yes, I'll be there in Indianapolis, looking forward, to that, to being a part of that. And as I understand it, there'll be like 30 other local authors that will be a part of it as well. I believe I'm the only one that they're bringing in from outside of the Indy area. So I really look forward to being able to meet some of my readers there. If they're in that area, there is an older woman that's probably in her mid to late 60s, I would say at this point, who is my self-proclaimed biggest fan. And so every time I've actually come to the Indianapolis area, she's always been there. She's a Caucasian woman who is actually an avid reader, and she says I'm her absolute favorite author, and she will stand toe-to-toe to anybody that says that they are a bigger fan than she is. And so she's actually come to every event. I was there once on a 3-day tour, I believe it was, in the Indianapolis area a few years ago, and every single day of my tour.
You saw her, huh?
She was right there.
Wow.
At everyone, and brought people with her when she would come to the event. So I reached out to her a couple of weeks ago, and I probably will reach out to her again before the close of the day to remind her that I'm actually coming back. She was really excited about the fact that I was going to come back to the area. So I'm really looking forward to coming there and meeting the host people who invited me to be a part of it, as well as the readers in that area. And then I have later in the year in October. I'm going to be a part of the Christian Book Lovers Retreat that's actually going on in Charlotte, North Carolina, I believe it's the 24th through the 27th of October that'll be going on, and I will be there for the last 2 days of that event that will be going on. I will be one of the featured authors there. I will be reuniting with this tour group of authors that I used to be a part of a little earlier in my career. There was a tour group of Christian authors called Anointed Authors on Tour, and we would travel the globe. There were 7 of us that we would travel the globe, and we did it for about 4 years straight, just going around and promoting writing. We would teach writers' workshops. We would, go and have book signings. We would have book launchings and things of that nature going on wherever we were.
That's amazing.
It was an awesome time. It was, and we built this sisterhood fellowship amongst us, and I believe 4 of them at least will be coming to be a part of that Christian Book Lovers Retreat, and we're going to all get together and do a joint event.
And that's taking place October 24th through October 27th.
Renaissance Suites Hotel.
Yes.
There in Charlotte, North Carolina.
So, can you give your contact information so that people can perhaps contact you if they're interested in attending?
Absolutely. People can reach out to me. I'm on social media, so they can look up Kendra Norman and find me on Facebook. They can find me on Twitter. They can find me also on Instagram. I'm actually busy on all 3 of those. People can email me if they would like. My email address is blessed_2_right@yahoo.com. So they can email me there. But I love to connect with people on social media. I have a page, a Kendra Norman readers page on social media, as well as my personal page. I'm almost at my friend limit on my personal page, but people can join up to my Kendra Norman page, and they can keep abreast of everything that's going on. I always keep people updated there.